Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. It's time to continue on the XM project. And I want to start to fix the rust needed for the MOT. There is some rust in this area on both sides. This is where you're supposed to lift the car. The XM can't really cope with the pressure on that point when you lift it. So as soon as just a little bit of rust is formed, it will just crush. And I have never lifted it on this point. It was crushed already when it got here. I'm lifting it on the frame in there. But we need to fix it, and the rust is worse than that on this side. I have some inner wheel arch that I need to reconstruct. But firstly, I want to remove the front fender to make room to actually see what's not there. Oh, nothing broke. Oh. It's always a bit scary on these old beasts. I think I'm going to remove the tire and the inner wheel arch because I think it's bolted together with a frame up here somewhere. There we go, it's off. And this is the area of concern because there's nothing left. And my issue is really the access because my lift is in the way. Okay, so this is it. The inner structure luckily looks all right in that area. But the inner panel in there, it's hard to see, but the inside of this is rotten at least up to here behind this. So I will have to cut this open to operate in there. But what I want to do firstly is to just clean up in this area and try to find the good metal because it seems to go a lot further than at first glance on this structure. So I'd like to see if I can find something that is still usable. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna try to do. I'll take you back in a minute. So there we go. It stops right in there. It's hard to get access on the lift, so I might do something different once I get to fix it, but I can see clean metal on the inside, so I'm pretty sure that it will be all right down there. I'm gonna stop working on that area and start focusing on this area to really get to know the scope of this repair needed. I'm gonna cut it open up here and down because the inner structure behind this is very rotten and I need to get in there to fix it. So I'm going to cut that open and take you back. So it's rusty on the backside also. What a surprise. I'm kidding, by the way. So there we go. Of course I need to keep this part of it because that will be welded back in and then the lower part will be reconstructed once all of this is somehow made better. I might have to cut even further in. The rod is climbing up quite high. I might have to open it up even more. It looks really nice down the inside of this, so that's a good thing. But still, I need more access. I think I have to take off a lot more of this so I can open up this and get access to the inside of this to reconstruct that. I think I will need to do that. This looks really nice. It's the backside of this that I'm worried about, or that I know is rusty. Of course I want to remove as little as possible, but if I remove too little, I will have to remove even more, and that will mean that I will have to do a lot more welding. But if I remove all the way up here, I will have problem to actually weld it in. So I think what I'm going to do is to go like this, because that I can weld. And then up here, because that I can weld. And then up like so. Like so. And like this. So I cut even more way down here, and now I think I reached good metal. It's surface rust, but it seems good. But I still want to cut away around the blue line to remove this, to get better access to this in here. It's gonna be a jigsaw puzzle to get back together, but it's necessary. So I'm hoping that this is the last I need to cut away to start actually fixing something. It's a lot of metal now removed. This is the bracket that the car lifts on. I need to remove that. I had hoped that I could just clean it up and re-weld it, but I probably will have to make a new one. It seems rather thin. That will show itself. But I need to remove that to start reconstructing the inner part. Maybe even the inner part of the wheel in there before actually doing all this. It's a lot more complicated than you might think when you saw the rust issues at first. It actually didn't look that bad, but it's always the case. There's a lot of reconstruction needed. I hope to cut out something like this and then clean up the metal up here and hopefully be able to weld a new back piece. But I need to figure out how many layers are behind this area, and this is the lifting point. That will also, I would like to reconstruct that also. It's all folded in currently. Just trying to see if I can shape it into the correct shape just a little bit. I wonder if I could just pull this off. Actually, I'm gonna mark up the position of this piece roughly like this. Let's see if I can actually remove this. Attempting to straighten up things a little bit in here. There's the handbrake cable. I'm getting in deep. I need to make sure this doesn't catch fire once I go to the welding part of this. But the interior on this car is unbelievably complicated to take apart. So I hope to not have to do that, to not go too crazy with that part of it. Just needs to know it starts right there, because it's still a bit crooked. Everything here needs to be straightened out to resume the correct. So I went ahead and cut away this part in here that I actually talked about fixing in the end, but I decided to fix it now because it will be so difficult to get in there when this part out here is fixed. So I cut away what's needed, and I want to try to recreate a new piece so I can weld that in before fixing this up here. And this is the piece. Try to make a template from, and I will attempt to make it out of cardboard. Not only do I need to make this piece out of cardboard, but I also need to make the missing part of this out of cardboard. What I want to do is to try to outline this part and then continue the part a little longer in both sides, like this and like this, just to begin with. fold this edge down, something like this, and then refit this test piece and see how it looks. Yeah, so this will be pretty decent. This flap is supposed to go in here. That means I will have to cut away even more material now in order to make that work. There we go, keep that. And go ahead and retest this fitment. So I'm gonna make this into a piece of metal. So there we go. I will start a lot of fiddling, of bending and shaping this until it resembles this and fits the car, of course, which is the most important bit. Let's get to work with that. I need to cut a relief up here because I need to bend it. The cardboard didn't need that, but this will. And then I need to make that soft bend. And then the slightly sharper bend on this side. So I think you get the point. I'm gonna do a lot of work to this until it fits as good as possible on the car. Be back. So it's very difficult to get it all to fit in, but I'm pretty close now, and I think I'm gonna weld in and form along the way and then take you back. I have tried to lift up the carpet, but it's glued to the floor, so I will have compressed air at the ready. It is not ideal, but it will just have to work. And then I'm gonna put some welds onto this and get it formed into place, and then see if it's an okay result. I also need to close up the holes back there. Be back in a minute. So after a bit of welding, this is where I'm at now. I'm still forming the piece into place, and I have a hard time welding in here. It looks really ugly here, but it will clean up all right. As you can see, I'm using self-tapping screws to fit it, but because of the amount of clearance between that, I think it's hard to see on camera, but I can't really fit my my tools in there. I hope I will end up with an okay result. Otherwise, I will have to put the car up on its side somehow to get that welding a little bit better. But I think it will be all right. It will turn out decent enough, I think, in the end. But there's a lot of welding, and I will just continue and take you back when it's a little bit prettier, I hope. So after a bit of cleanup, I still have more to do because this needs to be dressed up and so on. It's good enough for now. I can continue on the area down here, and what I want to do is to cut away this ledge and replace it with clean metal, because it's not that bad, but it will just be a lot more clean to weld the repair panel to the floor panel with some clear metal. So I'm going to cut this down like this and weld in a new piece. And then I'm going to make a repair panel that fits this. And I have a bucket of random pieces that I'm pretty sure will have what I need, so I don't have to cut. Yeah, this looks all right already. And then it's just a matter of matching that up to this. Something like this. So next up, it's this panel that needs to be made. So now I think we got this part of it ready, but we need this to come out like that. I actually think I'm going to make this out of 2 parts because it will be way easier to just weld it down there once I made this patch. I'm going to make this out of a piece of metal to begin with, and then I'm going to start make the plug welds holes afterwards once I get this shape right. And I just painted the inside of there because I will not be able to access that when I weld in that piece. I also painted the back side of the panel, the repair panel, because same story. Now what I want to do is to weld this piece in. Let's get to work. Something like this. And then I'm going to start to weld this in. I need to be careful, of course, that the inside doesn't catch fire because there is the sound, the insulation back there, but it's not touching. Just have to keep an eye out for that because I don't want that to happen, of course. But I actually think I'm gonna do this spot weld right there just to keep this under control. There we go. That last blip was a mistake. But now it's under control. That's nice. So I'm just going to go ahead and weld all this up. And there we go. Took a while, but it's decent. I'm going to grind down the welds now and see how it looks. And then in the end I will do the plug welds also. So let's start the grinding. And this is it. I'm going to give this a lick of paint to protect it. And then it's time to try to recreate that bracket that goes on the outside of this. This is the part that I'm trying to recreate. I already made a template and found a piece of metal that is thick, very thick. And I'm going to try to create this as good as I can. And here we go, I got a decent result. It will definitely do the job. So I'm going to weld this in. As you can see, I already painted the backside with some zinc primer because I won't be able to get to that later. And now I want to weld it in. I also removed the paint that I just put on because I have to weld. And then this around here is weld through primer once again. This one I want to weld in right around here. I think it's spot welded original from the backside, but I'm going to just put some welds around the perimeter and in the holes also. So I think that will be good enough. So there we go. This marks the end of what I want to fix today. Because this I want to protect. I want to paint it. I want to give it a couple of layers and protection inside of here before I continue on the rest of it. The rest of the panels are not connected directly to this. They are actually just going down and then having a ledge almost touching this, as far as I can see at least. That is welded together with the outer panel. So the outer panel is welded onto here and then onto the other panels up here. That will tie everything together, and it's probably, I think, the reason why these are so weak at this point. If this was actually welded directly to this, I don't think we would see the same problems. According to the members forums in Denmark on XMs, it's a no-no to lift on these points, no matter what, pretty much, because they will crush and they will start to rust like it has happened on this one. So I am tempted to test if I can lift it on this, just to see if my work is decent, but it's really not advised to do so. because it's just so weak in the construction. And I can imagine, because if this panel out here rusts, and they do, the connection between this panel and the jacking point is no longer there. So it's just this very thin 0.9 that ties it together. It's very close together, so it's strong as long as it's not rusty. But as soon as rust is formed, it will be very weak, and if you lift it, it will crack the paint because of the tension, and then it will start to rust quickly. I am really tempted to tie this and this panel into this one instead of into this one, just to make the entire thing a bit stronger. But I will think about that for a couple of days, because this will need paint, and yeah, I need to do some other stuff to not go completely mental on rust repairs. But this is going to be all for now. It's fun to be back on the XM. This is just a complicated car in every kind of aspects. I didn't know that this was going to be slightly complicated repair, but I was not expecting 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of metal to be repaired before I could actually put it back together. And remember, there's also the outer wing, which is also a layer, which is not connected other than with a screw, I think. I need to fix that also, because that's also rusty, so there's a lot of work still needed, but this is, it's getting there, I think. Yeah, I'm not an expert, I'm not a professional welder, and it shows, and yeah, that's just the way it is. But I still need to reconstruct the rest of this panel in here, this panel, this panel, this panel. I will probably make a video more about doing that, but this is where this video will end, otherwise it will be very, 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 very long. Please do comment whether you like to watch this kind of things, if you want more or less details. I need to do the pretty much the entire same repair on the other side. But yeah, stay tuned for more on this one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget you can support me. There's a Patreon link down below. It means the world to me. And see you in the next one.